Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the review show on the YouTube channel Rainey Toon Talk. Tonight, we're going to be looking back at the games against Southampton, West Ham, and Bournemouth. And joining us now, we have Ian and Craig. Lads, thank you very much for joining us again.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, mate.
Still unbeaten, but a little bit different the last few games, which we're going to go over, obviously, minus the Southampton game, which was absolutely fantastic. Even it was a great night, wasn't it, in St James Park that night?
We got over early, didn't we?
Aye, class.
Normally, I'll do my ritual and go to the Marlborough Club before with the lads. It was just we had stuff to do, and it was just the build up and everything. I got over it. I'm sure I got over about 4:20.
Class,
and I walked past the Marlborough Club and it was shut, which was because I was over too early, and I thought, well, I had a quick one in there before, so it was shut. So I just headed my way up, and I goes, right, I'll go into pubs I never normally ever go in. So I had one in the Strawberry, and when I was walking across in front of Shearers, honestly, there was about 20 fans outside singing songs because they were going absolutely mental at like 4:30, you know. And then just from then on, the whole feel about the place was it was completely different to what a normal match day was. I mean, it was just an excitement around the place. It was a buzz because obviously we always had we had one foot in the door, kind of into the final itself. But it was just a remarkable build up, and you could feel the excitement as you go around the ground. It was just brilliant, like.
Yeah, really good. Like you say, the game itself, Newcastle 2, Southampton 1, and for the final as well. And like you say there, Ian, I mean, something different for the night, obviously standing outside. We spoke to some Southampton fans, which was really nice to speak to away fans and the two cracking lads as well. A couple of Newcastle fans, but we stood there for about an hour and a half, but you can just feel as the time was going on, you could hear the DJ shut music. You could just feel something was building, couldn't you, come to kick off?
Well, it was great because obviously when we were trying to get close to the away fans, because the away fans weren't there when we first went there.
Yeah.
You could feel like as they were coming in, and obviously we're seeing the team coach come in as well. That like the fans were kind of bubbling and getting themselves excited, and they was a little bit optimistic themselves. Obviously, when we spoke to a couple of the fans, they were quite optimistic going to might get a result here. Because if you go look back to their home leg, I thought they finished quite strong. So they give themselves a little bit of hope. And then obviously, afterwards, spoke to them. There was a couple of ex-players walked past, was Ryan Taylor, and then obviously the highlight was when we seen Bruno's dad just casually walked. He walked up the steps as casually like, we were like, oh, there's Bruno's dad, you know. And it was great, like. And then we spoke to a couple of Newcastle fans. It was nice to get a feel from the home fans as the build-up was going in, not just ourselves, but the away fans as well, which was absolutely brilliant, you know.
That was really good. And Craig, yourself, I mean, we're looking at the lineup and going back to the first leg, obviously, Isaac, ASM come on and pretty much changed the game for us and push us for a start. Did you expect the same 11, or did you expect one of those to be in the start lineup?
I thought just the way Eddie Howe set up and stuff like that, I thought he would have went with the same, which he did. To be honest, it didn't surprise us at all. You know, maybe it's that, you know, they come on and made an impact, but I think that was a good headache for him to have, and I think he made the right decision, to be honest, you know, like throughout the game. Wilson, you know, is someone who we can really, really trust. And I think that's what you find with Eddie Howe. He's not changing his team much. And I think it's down to that, you know, the players who he's got in that starting 11 or whatever, these are players he can trust. So, you know, I expect the final, to be honest, if they all fit, to be the same, you know, if they're there as well. Like, but no, I wasn't surprised. I think it was the right team. And, you know, they started off fantastic as well in the game, like, you know.
That was brilliant, wasn't it? And like you say, in that start, I mean, the build up, the pass, the one-touch Trippier, Longstaff to get it through, and then the 1-0. And I kind of said to you at the time, it's game over this. And it was just because of how, like you say, DJ Shaq was on, the atmosphere, the little songs that I played before the game. And then to score that goal so early on, it was party starting, wasn't it?
I mean, I said again, I thought the first 10 minutes of that game was really, really crucial for Newcastle United. And it worked in our favour. I mean, we came out the blocks, we were absolutely flying. I mean, it was great play. It was great play down the side to release him, and it was a lovely, good touch, and he just drilled it in the bottom corner. We're in cloud nine at that time because obviously we've got that 2-goal advantage. But then again, we didn't take our foot off the pedal after that. I mean, we just kept going and going, and we scored again. But to say we were in Partyland, when not for you when you were sat next to me, because I would say for about 80 minutes of that game, I kept looking at the clock and just remind you on how many minutes we played. I think at the time I think we played about 20. I think at the time we played about 27 minutes, and you were going, "How long's left? How long's left?" And I says, "You're going to have to buckle yourself down, mate, because you've got a long, long time to go." But I think we're to come to St James's Park after we got off to a fantastic start, to score so many goals and even to beat us at home was never going to happen. But it was still
edgy, wasn't it?
It was a nervy night, which is expectable. Such a massive occasion. We've never been in a semi-final for such a long time, and it was nice. It was a nice nerve, if you know what I mean. Because we were always in control of that football match, and it was a great experience, and it was probably one of the best experiences I've had inside of St James's Park for a long, long time. And I was so, thanks to you, I was absolutely over the moon. I was actually part of it.
No, it was amazing. And like you say, Craig, not long afterwards, Willock, great playing to Miggy. And it was nice to see Miggy out there, because normally on the other side, the right-hand side, he wants to cut in, he wants to do this, but he just thought, you know what, I'm just going to swing my foot at it, and I'm going to pull it back the edge of the box. And luckily, Sean Longstaff pops up again. I mean, the last few times we've been on, we kind of mentioned his shooting and how bad it's been, but it goes in, it's 2-0, 3-0 aggregate, it's party time as well. It was just a great feeling, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was about the goal as well. It was great to see it come down the left-hand side, because as we all know, a lot of our play does come down the right. So for me, it's one of the best goals I think we've scored. I think it was Miggy and Joe Linton played great little 1-2 in tight space down the line, and down he went, and it was just like fantastic, like build up with, like you say, Willock playing it in for Miggy and stuff like that, and then just a pullback for Longstaff, who, obviously he's had his critics this season, but fair play to the lad. He's clearly made a steal. Do you know what I mean? He's been given some stick and stuff like that, but he's absolutely shone through, and I couldn't think of anyone who deserved the goal like more than what he did, to be honest. And it's just like the whole stadium was absolutely just buzzing then. Do you know what I mean? Just telling me, my ma was just ringing around the stadium, and everyone up with the scarves. It was just, what we've wanted for years, isn't it? Moments like that, that's what we've been itching for, like.
Really good. But then you say not long afterwards, I mean, obviously, the atmosphere is absolutely electric, and we take our foot off the pedal a little bit. You can see the casual little passes just weren't reaching the men, and you're thinking, right, we need to really get our foot in this. And then all of a sudden, obviously, the ball comes to Willock, and again, just that little pass. And you can't take nothing away from Shea Adams. What an absolute strike that was. But that goes in, and even though we were kind of 3-1 up, and I always said, there's no way they're going to score another 2 goals at St James's Park. It was a little worry at the time, wasn't it?
I mean, we were sat in the whole of the crowd after when Willock just played that little ball in behind, but that put the forward on the front foot. The whole crowd side went like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
didn't they?
To be fair to Kid, what a strike! And it would have had to took a strike. They had to beat Nick Poe from that Definitely. Far out. After that goal, there was times where we weren't at the races, but it just goes to show that Eddie Howe's got he's got a desire inside the team, even though things aren't right. They'll know how to grind games out. You know what I mean? But we still had chances after that. But I mean, we did. We had chances after that. But so did Southampton. To be fair to them, as much as there were goals down, they never give up. They still had a right go at it. Because the fans, I mean, they had such a long trip home. I would say hardly any of them left, even after we scored that second goal. So fair play to them. They must have still thought they had a good chance.
Definitely. I mean, so even the 2 lads we spoke to, I mean, they said this. One of them set up at 6:30, didn't they, from somewhere? And they
went from the Isle of Wight.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, they came from the Isle of Wight. I mean, that's dedication for. I mean, when we had even Leicester on a midweek and we had Bournemouth as well, the allocation was quite low. But I know it's a semi-final, but especially if you're trailing going into that second leg, the dedication of them fans to come that far up, especially from the Isle of Wight, it's remarkable. I mean, Newcastle would do it because obviously we would just do it. But I think it's massive dedication for them.
And it's proper football fans, that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
without a doubt.
Really good. Evening, Delboy Gunner. What's the crack, lads? Yeah, thank you very much for watching, Delboy. Really appreciate it. We're coming for you now. You slipped off. We're going to catch you up. But yeah, any thoughts on your game the other night against Man City? Get them in as well. Not looking good. And finally, on the game itself, Craig, you just mentioned, obviously, we just mentioned Nick Pope and some of the, he couldn't pick the save off, but the save of the 1-on-1 against Armstrong, what a crucial save that was, but what a crucial time as well, wasn't it?
No, it was. Obviously, like what Dave mentioned just before, I think as soon as they scored that goal, it was like a big sign. I think it was just, everyone was that, even though, like you say, no one expected them to score another 2 goals, everyone was a little bit anxious, weren't they? Like constantly, I was the same, looking at the clock all the time, how long to go, and obviously I think that was the best chance they had in the game as well, the one of Armstrong. And I mean, God, he's absolutely class, isn't he, Nick Pope? What else can you say, really? He's one of them that you expect him to save it. I'm not expecting them to score like probably you would in the past. He comes out, he makes himself big and that, and you expect him to save the ball, It's But it was a cracking save at a crucial time. I think maybe it was about 15 minutes left or something like that. If I forget, if they got another goal like that and the tails are up, it would have been in for a long 15 minutes anyways for the remainder. But we just grinded it out, and we've got that about at the minute. Just even if we're not playing as well as what we can, or we're going through bad periods in the game, we're just they're sticking together, and it's it's great to see, really, and that's why I think it's the base of a success, really, that's happening.
No, really good. And just finishing off in that game, I mean, my feelings at full time. I mean, I was crying. It was just as nice to see us get back to Wembley. It was absolutely amazing. But just going through both of you, I mean, starting with yourself, Ian, what was your feelings at full time, and obviously going to Wembley again?
I mean, one, I had to control you to make sure. I was like, I felt like a bit of a father figure through the game. You were like an emotional wreck 1 minute. You were up and down. You were screaming, shouting. But that's the joys of football, and it just goes to show how much we love Newcastle United. To be honest, it really didn't sink in properly until I actually got home. Because obviously, when you're trying to, like, obviously when we were there trying to do a little bit of work and stuff like that, you're trying to. It's not until you come away from the actual game and everything, and because you've got to remember, after the game, the fans outside of the ground at that time of night was just, the place was absolutely bouncing.
Unreal.
After they were singing in the streets all the way. I mean, it was absolutely hoying it down. And the place was just in party mode. So, like I say, it was by the time I got in, and then I had to watch all the replays again. I put the highlights on, and then you just realise like how massive the game was. And like I say, I was just dead lucky to be a part of that night. And just let it sink in, but it was just remarkable, like absolutely brilliant. And like I say, it was just, what a result, what a night, what an occasion. It just, you cannot top it. It's just absolutely brilliant.
No, really good. Just yourself, Craig, as well. I mean, what was your feelings at full time?
Well, relief first of all, going through that, and obviously just the excitement, just the thought, like, watching them play at Wembley, do you know what I mean? Seeing them in a final, competing again with, where we've been dying for a club to be for years and years. We're still, some people say we're still stuck in the era. Maybe we are a bit of like back in the day when we've got to them cup finals and competed, but, why not? And, after so long of waiting for it, it was just like huge build-up of excitement and stuff like that. And it's one that, I can't wait for with every other Geordie, it's, the whole place is going to be taken off next Sunday, like, you know what I mean, and down Wembley and up here, it's going to be one party place.
It's going to be absolutely brilliant. Niall, big up. Niall, thank you very much for watching as well, and Jay as well. I love watching your videos. Good luck at the final. Thank you, Jay. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate anyone that's watching as well. Really appreciate the support. I think we're about 5 or 6 subscribers away now from 700. Been absolutely fantastic month. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe and let us hit that 700. As well. So getting on to our next game, which was the Newcastle West Ham game, and I said this before we kind of went into the game to a few friends. This is the big games now where the lads have getting to a final. What's going to be the reaction? Do you think that's kind of season over? What they're going to do? But when you've got Eddie Howe as a manager, there's no way he's going to let anything slip and the lads would still put the same performance in. And West Ham was always going to be a tough game, and it did turn out to be a tough game. And Craig, just going into it, like you said, for myself, looking at that first kind of 5-10 minutes, it did like a bit like the lads were hung over a bit from the cup win, but you would expect that a little bit. But the atmosphere around the ground was kind of a little bit different. Like you said, the ticket worry, people was questioning what was going to happen with the ticket allocation. That's all I could hear you going up in the stands. I mean, what was your thoughts going into the game on that day?
It's always a worry, and I'd say out when teams get good results, you do fear that hangover that they've got, and kind of, are they going to be able to get up for this again after the high that they've just had the other night? But, obviously the start of the game was absolutely amazing, wasn't it? The fact of obviously getting that early goal disallowed, but then going straight back up and scoring, it was unbelievable, to be honest. And I thought, God, I thought, yeah, we'll go. But then it was quite similar, to be honest. We're just a great start. And we kind of just let them come back into it. And it did look like we're leggy. It just looked like we struggled to really get going and stuff like that. But I mean, on about the ticket situation as well, like talking to a lot of people, it's like everyone was booking the trains, with the buses, the travel, hotels without knowing really they had a ticket. And, I think there was like a lot of people anxious and stuff about that, hoping, fingers crossed that they do. But like I say, I think overall it probably was a bit of below par and low on the game that we played West Ham, really.
Yeah. Like you say, I mean, Bruno obviously ruled out after getting sent off, but again, did you expect the same lineup, or do you think, right, we played a massive game during the week, we're going to change things up a bit, or were you expecting that same lineup? Obviously, mine is Bruno, and just a slight change with Joe Linton push. I think it was almost guaranteed that he was going to be pushed back in, and ASM putting back with him. I know there was a few doubts, kind of, would it be him, would it be Gordon? Did you think he went with the right choice in the end?
Eddie Howe was always going to do that, even if.
Yeah.
I think if you always see about when we're saying Bruno, with a new player that comes to Newcastle United, it's very, very rare that he'll put him straight in. He done it with Sven Botman. So we always knew he was always going to play that. You've got to give credit to West Ham. I think they're in a false position there. I really do. I think they've got quality. Yeah. They've got a quality squad. They were no disrespect to the other teams down the bottom. They're the far better team. That's came to St James's Park. That's been in that so-called bottom area of the pitch. So it was always going to be a dangerous game. Even if we didn't have that semi-final through the week, West Ham at home is always going to be a hard game. And it showed. I mean, we've got a fantastic start. But I just think, West Ham knew exactly how to set them up against us. And again, I thought probably that's second time. I think it might have been the Leeds game that Eddie Howe probably struggled a little bit with tactics against it as much as and I thought David Moyes done a fantastic job with them, and I thought they were a decent side at St James's Park, and they certainly didn't look like the team from down the bottom. So to come away with like I say, with a point was good. On a day where we were after a fantastic start, we weren't at our best, but I think a little bit of credit's got to West Ham coming away from home. I thought they were decent. Yeah,
really good. And like you say, Craig, I mean, amazing start. The Almiron cutback, Willock. I mean, I think everyone forgets because it was VAR, but what a great finish that was, by the way, by Willock to pick out that top corner from the angle he was. Absolutely great finish. But even from in level 7, I kind of said straight away at part of that, that's gone out to play that. So I wasn't getting too excited, but I mean, you put that to one side. And it was just good, obviously, where we sit in level 7, the West Ham fans are going mad, you're not singing anymore. Then literally seconds later, that ball from Sean Longstaff through and slotted home by Wilson. It was just so nice to see the West Ham fans go from that within 2 seconds. It was absolutely a great feeling. But what a pass by Sean Longstaff that was. And I mean, I know Wilson hasn't been as good in front of goal, but we expect that to hit the back of the net.
Oh God, no! When he's running like that towards goal, that's him. That's his bread and butter. I think all day. And for me, the way we play at the minute, we don't do enough of that, and I think that's where he kind of lacks. I think if he's making them runs at times, if you have a look at him, and we're just not giving him the ball. I think it's the first time I can really think that we've done it this season of giving it, and he gets a lot of joy. He likes to play on the shoulder and stuff like that. And it was a fantastic ball, fantastic, and it was good to see rather than watching, going down the wing, doing the overlap, looking
Exactly.
for that perfect goal. You know, some are totally different, mate, and you know it's he fully deserved his goal, to be honest, because he hasn't done great, but he's been creating his own chances still, and I think he deserved the goal for keep going that he has over the few tough games that he's had. So I was over the moon. And
do you think though I totally agree with Callum running in behind. Now I think a lot of teams and managers now, because of our pace down the sides as well, because Willock gets up and down there brilliantly, gets us up yards, and obviously you've got Almer on there. Teams are dropping in deeper, so it's I think it's stopping Callum Wilson because we cannot play that ball like on the shoulder because not very often now where defenders are quite high up. So I like Callum Wilson, I think, is doing a lot of his work like this side of the centre half rather than the other side because they're playing so deep. But they're like nullifying our space. Do you agree with that?
I do.
So, yeah.
I know what you're saying, mate. I just think there's plenty of times we win the ball, we're great at winning the ball back and stuff like that, like what we did then. And I don't think we're looking for them passes, more or less, quite a bit. I think it's then we're going out wide and then we're waiting for that overlap to happen and stuff like that. You know, and I think a lot of times we're getting good positions going forward, but then because it's going out wide all the time, we end up just going back and back.
Yeah.
If it's not that perfect pass, so sometimes it's just that risk, taking that risk of a pass. If it doesn't come off, it doesn't come off. Do you know what I mean? But I it was great to see that, and it was good to score a goal like that. Something totally different. I think that I can't remember we're scoring a goal like that, to be honest. This
Not
season.
for a while, have we?
No.
It reminds us, to be honest, that type of pass is something that Shelby had in his locker, and that's Wilson got a lot of joy off them balls that Shelby used to play. Would be a bit more direct and going in between the fullback and the centre half. So I think it's something that I think Newcastle should definitely look at more, really doing
No, definitely. Some cracking questions coming in from Jay as well, which we'll get onto when we get on towards the Liverpool game as well, coming up on Saturday. Just getting back, obviously, after that goal in, and you mentioned, obviously, the game before, the sloppy passes started creeping in, exactly the same thing again, but you can see this time, West Ham were just starting to then grow and grow at the game. Declan Rice, watching him play live, what a player he is, man.
Yeah,
but again, the corner, again, a sloppy, obviously, Bukata taps it in the final post, but we're going to again, which is ideally exactly the same goal the week after against Bournemouth, the front post, someone flicks it on, and just people just stand there not knowing who the marking or where the man's going. What was your thoughts on the goal that we conceded?
Well, for us to concede off corners when we're probably one of the biggest sides in the league's frustrating because we're being that strong of defending. I thought Trippier. I thought obviously Paqueta was a little bit too strong for Trippier the way he rolled him off. There was a little bit of luck for the flick that went into him, but it was a cool little finish into it. Like I say, to concede off corners, like when we're a big strong side and we've looked really really solid of that, but you can't, like I say, you cannot go all season without conceding off a corner. Yeah. But it's how you react after that. And we're huffed and puffed a little bit. But getting back to Declan Rice, I think after that ball into Callum Wilson through the centre, we tried to play quite a little bit through the centre after that, mind, and Declan Rice just shielded his back four. Unbelievable. Nothing was going through there, mind. And he was the best player on the pitch by a mile that day. He was absolutely brilliant. Declan Rice, absolutely fantastic.
I don't think we've seen a better performance from an away player, to be honest, all season at St James's Park. That's my opinion. I think you take him out that West Ham team, and I think we would have beat them. To be honest, he just seemed to stop so many attacks that we're building, and like Dave has mentioned, stopping that one going in. He read the game perfectly, and obviously he's got that bit about him where he can drive forward, and he's a good passer as well. I think he dragged them through the game, and I think without him, I do think we would have won.
Yeah, well, I said after the game, all I said was that Declan Rice just showed a real captain's performance, and if you're going to go from a captain's performance that took a game by the scruff of the neck, that's if you want to model yourself off a player in that position, that Declan Rice to that day was absolutely phenomenal.
Not really good. And Craig getting on ASM, and I think even Parker touched on this in the game against West Ham. He even said Daddy just doesn't look the same player that he used to be, does he? I says, no, definitely not. I mean, you're looking at him, and every time he got the ball, he just couldn't do anything. But the most frustrating thing is kids' football, you're always taught, come and meet the ball. In the amount of times where a player nicked in and just nicked the ball off him and ran away, but he just stood there, put his hands down, didn't chase back. And again, obviously, then Gordon comes on, looks sharp, and played in Wilson, who obviously should have scored, which we'll get onto. But what was your thoughts on ASM and obviously the difference Gordon made when he came on?
Now, obviously, like anyone, everyone loves like Maximum, don't they? Like, he's a fantastic footballer, and when he's going, the crowd lifts up and stuff like that. But
yeah,
he just doesn't seem to be doing it. And in that game, it was weird because I thought, he's going to be up for it today. I was looking forward to watching him play because, we're 3 games away from a final. This is his chance to really go, this is going to be my spot now. I'm going to grasp this. And he just didn't look interested. And I was literally watching him when Dan Burn was getting the ball. And he was just standing there, his man, and he wasn't like even trying to lose him, like go one way to come back or even to come towards Dan Burn and spinning behind. And he had no movement. So then Dan Burn, I think sometimes he should have just went long, but he was expecting him to come short, and he just wasn't. And then it was honestly, I was gutted, like really, to be honest, because I love watching him play, and it was just disappointing, like especially when I know it's his debut and stuff like that, but like he did lift the tempo massively when he come on, Gordon, and he looked fantastic, just nice and sharp, like basic what you say, come to meet the ball, getting his good touch on, and just moving the ball quickly. It's he made a massive impact, but it was massively disappointing for Maxwell, like.
And do you think Wilson should have put that ball away?
Oh, well, definitely. He should have. And he should have, like, in hindsight, he should have went across him, but
slowed down a bit, didn't he?
It was fantastic tackle. Absolutely fantastic tackle.
The defender. Wilson had 2 yards on him, right? It was you look, you go, he's in here, like.
Yeah.
And the kid just gained so many yards dead quick, and to make that he was probably the second best player on the pitch that day as well. The centre half, he was fantastic that day.
Yeah, he did.
Like Craig's just said there, the only criticism what he should have done was probably cut across him earlier to stop him having the chance to take him to make that tackle, because potentially if you're going to go across him, you could be then drawn into a foul, which is probably not what the defender wanted to do there, because the potential would be a red card. And we're being critical, but you've got to give credit to the defender. It was a fantastic tackle, like.
Not really good. And just finishing on that game,
Ian,
I mean,
understand why he's going down on his right. It's right.
Yeah. Couldn't you? Yeah,
definitely. You can understand. It's on his right foot, isn't it? So,
like I say, I think he just had his eyes would have lit up, wouldn't they? As soon as he's seen that chance, he's thinking, right, there we go.
Especially with Callum Wilson, though, because he's probably thought he ain't going to catch me because he didn't catch his first half. So he's probably just kept himself going in that direction to pull the trigger. Then he must have got a shock as well. How quick he gained yards. I thought it was a great tackle.
Definitely. I mean, later on again, Wilson header straight at the goalkeeper. But again, it was worried because there was no strike on the bench that we could bring on actually change things. You could see him just starting to get a bit tighter. Missed chances of the game. But again, Ian, it was a good point getting it. And I think a lot of fans after the game were kind of twisting and complaining. I was thinking, hold it, if this was a good point against West Ham, who's played very good today. Sometimes you've got to take them points. And like you say, against West Ham, they're not a rubbish side. They are a good Premier League side. Yeah. So I was more than happy with the point. What was your thoughts on that?
Well, I picked up on it earlier. What I've said about how good West Ham are. Like I said, even after the semi-final for West Ham at home, it's never ever been an easy game. West Ham at St James's, they're a good side, and if you're not playing very well after a good start, we still didn't get really played to the heights that we've been playing at. So to come away with a point against a good side, you've just got to. I mean, for me, I was absolutely raging watching Saint-Maximin, and I'm glad you didn't ask me that question first, because I wouldn't have been as polite. I mean, you know my views on Saint-Maximin anyway. I wouldn't have been as polite as what Craig's put it. So my focus was, and it still is when he plays, and it drives us absolutely up the wall. What he does for me. I'm not his biggest fan, you know that. But to come away with a point, I was, after being raging of watching him on, when I've come away from the game and just sat myself down a bit, it's been a canny point.
Definitely. And getting on the Bournemouth game now, Bournemouth won, Newcastle United won, and it was a funny one because I know about now before kick-off, the IPTV thing wasn't working on my phone, and it was something was down with the system, so I thought, oh, I've got to watch the match somewhere, so I went to get the Now TV, just a day passing, I thought, right, it better be worthwhile this, but look at the wife paid for it, like, got a couple of cans, it wasn't too bad. But the first 10, 20 minutes, you're thinking, Jesus, what have I paid this money to watch here? But Ian, starting with yourself, no Bruno, then obviously Wilson mentioned injured, but then you see the lineup, and it was still a strong lineup. You see that front three of ASM, Miggy, and Ovi Isaac. You think, wow, that's good pace, power. We're gonna create some chance here. What was your thoughts on the lineup when you seen it?
Well, because obviously after the West Ham game, I'm still thinking, well, he's another one with some Maximan.
Mm-hmm.
What's he going to bring today? Because obviously the rest of the team kind of picked itself. Because if Wilson's not going to be there, Isak's obviously going to come in for his start, and everybody was kind of excited to see him, rather than the rest of the team, in my opinion. And I just thought we were nowhere near.
No.
Honest, from the minute one, I just thought this ain't going to be easy. This, like, you could just see the way it was started. It was just going to be one of them horrible days. Especially away from home, it's a tight little ground, and if you give them a little sniff in tight little grounds like that, I think there's only 15,000 there. That'll sound about like 80,000 when it's so close to that pitch. But I knew it was just going to be awful after the way it was started, and it was just an awful day.
Oh, it was horrible, wasn't it? And Craig, I mean, that first half poor performance. The Bournemouth goal, like we just mentioned, touch on again, flick on at the front post, tapping at the back post. But again, Miggy, what a time to score before half time, and a great play again. Obviously, ASM into Longstaff. I thought he would put the ball away, rebound comes out, and you both know obviously played at a good level, and the ball goes in the back of the net at that time, and you're thinking, right, I can't wait for the second half to come out. Newcastle are going to come out absolutely fly, and we're going to get 2 or 3 the second half. And it just didn't happen. But what was your thoughts on that first half and your expectation when that goal went in? Thinking what you're expecting the second half.
Well, the first half was just poor, mate. It was poor. It was like, and I think you've got to give credit to the team in one sense as well, and Eddie Howe, because they've set the standard so high for it, you know what I mean, of what we've been used to this season and what we've been watching. It's been fantastic, and it was just poor to watch. It was one of I would probably say it's the worst we've played that I can remember, really. Do you know what I mean, of it? But and to concede another goal, just a mirror image of what we conceded against West Ham, was was disappointing, really. You would think like you'd be tuned in for things like that, especially they must have talked about after that West Ham goal that they've conceded. So to concede like that was disappointing, but to get that goal like what we did, and it looked like a bad pass initially, and Maximum done well to keep it in. And a good little interplay, and obviously he's done well. And it was a great run by Longstaff, to be honest, run through the middle. And obviously maybe he was there to tap it in. And it is one of them where, it's a great time to score, and you go in half time with your tails up basically, and you're ready. I think, right, we're going to come out with a big lift the second half, but we just didn't seem to really get going, throughout the whole game. It
was flat.
Didn't seem to have any, it didn't have any flow to it or anything like that. It's kind of, whether we're looking leggy or not, I don't know, really. It's kind of just something missing, whether it is the final on the minds at the minute. But the past few games, it has, even like, I suppose the West Ham game, we started off great again, but just running flat, after so far, as soon as teams get a foothold in the game, we just don't seem to be as if we can get any rhythm about when that game. I feel like we just never got going at all, to be honest. So it's both of them, when you look at it and think, get a point from both. I know it's not ideal on paper and stuff like that, and you might look at a game and think, we're going to get 3 points here, but it probably, when you look at it, you think maybe it's 2 good points to take, after the high that we've had, and we still haven't getting beat.
Yeah. See what was with me, why I think we're running flat. I mean, we'll go back when all these the Newcastle fans are getting ahead of themselves and going, we want Champions League, we want Europa League or whatever. You've got to remember, Eddie Howe's 99% of the times picked these players as starting 11 has been the same players for a long time. So these players are playing week in, week out, every single game. It's
simply because, it now.
it's simply because the squad depth ain't good enough. And if you're in, I think if Matt Targett was fit, I think Dan Burn would probably come out at times. Now, with Matt Targett going left back, but he's looking at his bench and going, he's got likes of Matt Ritchie and Jacob Murphy's, and you've got Andersons, and you know what I mean. The only time we've had a decent bench to come off and change the game was when Isak and Sir Maximan came on at Southampton away in the semi-final. Apart from that, it's been the same. I mean, Paul Dummett. No disrespect to Paul Dummett. Paul Dummett's been on the bench, man. This is why these players at this present time, and I mean, it might work in our favour because we're not playing. We've got a week to rest, you know, because these players all are. It's natural to be looking. I know people say they're professional footballers, so should be fit as a fiddle, but when you're playing week in, week out, it does take a toll on you. Definitely.
Catch up, doesn't it? Definitely.
Yeah.
A couple of comments coming there as well, which we'll get on to about the Liverpool game later, Colin. I think it's on about the North East there, the non-league show, that one, going to be a nail-biting end of the season in the Northern League Division 2. Any of the top 6, and including, and watch out for the show as well, Colin, because we've got loads coming up over the next month or so. I was actually chatting to Bryson this morning, the Berkeley manager, who's going to be coming on in April as well, so keep your eyes open for that one. But very best of luck for the season, doing very well down at Berkeley as well. Just back to yourself, Ian, mentioning obviously the 1-1 draw, but looking back, which I didn't really realise, because I think it was that poor, 15 shots, 7 on target, 67% possession, over 500 passes. But again, I think, as we touched on later, it seems to be when we're passing the ball backwards and forwards, going across the pitch, it was nothing kind of in that final third. But it didn't feel like that watching on, did it? I mean, what was your thoughts on the second half as the game went on?
Yeah, the stats has been absolutely fantastic. For a long time now, when we've had quite a bit of possession, we've high percentages when we've had a lot of shots more than the opposition. So, but Eddie Howe absolutely thrives on that. So, if he's going into a game where he'll say the percentage of the passing's good, the shots is good, he'll say we're doing things right. And if you notice Eddie Howe, when he's after games, he'll go, well, we just weren't clinical enough to finish the game off because we're always in control of it. So he'll go back to his stats before he'll make his comments. So for me personally, I think it's all right having all them percentages and in passing and shooting, but if it's not in the right areas, it means nothing. If you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Because if you've got a lot of, if you say, take a Man City for instance, and you've got a lot of possession, and you've got a lot of that's in your final third, and you've got shots in your final third, and you're penetrating teams within that 18-yard box, and you're hurting teams, and you've maybe came away with a 0-0, you'll think, we haven't dominated that game. But we didn't dominate the game against Bournemouth. So that even though the stats were high, it didn't show a reflection on Newcastle's performance.
Definitely. And Craig, you mentioned as well, Gordon looking sharp again. I mean, what do you expect of him now between now and the end of the season? Do you think he'll be playing week in, week out? Do you think bits and parts? Or do you think he's kind of shown, right, I'm here to make this place my own life?
Yeah, no, I think when you look at him, obviously, before he come in, that he looks like a quite strong-headed character, to be fair, so I think he'll be coming, wanting to make a difference. I think if he can get in this year, I think that would be great. And I think I fully expect him to be honest, to play a big part from now to the end of the season. But I think next season, I think we'll see a different player, a bit like what we've seen with some of the players this year, where they've had literally a pre-season that can buy into literally what Eddie Howe wants to do and stuff like that. And I think we've got a real player on our hands, mate. Like, I think he just suits how Eddie Howe wants to play. Like he's quick, just the tempo, the pressing. He's direct in what he does. I think he'd be a fantastic signing for. I think it's just something happening for him, just getting that goal or whatever like that, or an assist, and give him that big confidence. But I fully expect him to play a lot, and rightly so. I think as well. I think in the few bits that we have seen of him, he's shown more, than what some others have, in the sense of being a bit direct and creating things and making things happen.
It wouldn't surprise me, mind, if he starts against Liverpool.
Yes.
Yeah. Honestly, I really wouldn't surprise us at all. With him being obviously an Everton lad, I'd like to see it. And as well, it'll be if you put him in, and he has an absolute worldie against Liverpool, and then we've got because he knows he's not going to play obviously in the cup final. So then it's resting the player or making sure everything's right for the cup final. So it wouldn't surprise me if he starts against Liverpool. But Craig's right. I think he's a fantastic player, mate. I was over the moon we've got him. He's 6 foot, direct, really pacey. He's got a right edge about him, and that's what we need.
Definitely. So, yeah, the fans have really taken it as well. But yeah, that's the 3 games that's gone over now. But a couple of questions that we're going to go through that we wrote down as well. We're all going to kind of discuss it. But first of all, is the thoughts on ASM over the past 2 games, which we kind of touched on. I mean, starting with myself, and I thought obviously the game he came on against Southampton, got the lads sent off, and I thought, right, this is his chance now to possibly think, right, we won 2 games away from the final. I'm going to go out and show what I can do. And what a chance he's getting to start out there the last couple of games. But he's, like you say, he's done absolutely nothing. The amount of times where he's waiting for the ball to come to his feet, someone's nicking inside him, he's trying to do an extra step over, he's losing the ball, it's going out of play. He just looks totally beaten. I know there was some rumours about going to AC Milan and all this, but I just think because under Steve Bruce, he was our only hope of getting the ball forward and possibly creating a chance, where now we play more as a team. I just, in a way, not to sound bad, but I don't think he likes that type of thing. This is, your chance. Saying, what's your thoughts on ASM the last couple of games?
He frustrates the life out of me, because to me, he doesn't bring enough to Newcastle United anymore. And I mean, I thought he was a top player in a bad bunch under Steve Bruce, and he stood out like a sore thumb. And to me, if you're this fantastic player and people go, he's one of the best dribblers in the world, and this, that, and the other, why isn't he going to the World Cups? Why isn't he in the French squad? Why isn't he attracting top teams to go, well, wants the maximum? Because me personally, I can understand, I can see why. He's off the ball, I think, is non-existent.
Yeah.
Now, what I personally think, how we've been so strong as a team is, you've had Joe Willock in front of Dan Burn. Joe Willock hasn't been there. Joe Linton's been there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 2 strong players there. Now, if you take them 2 strong players away and put the Maximan in front of Dan Burn, you've exposed Dan Burn, and I think that's why Dan Burn, if you look at the last couple of games, he's been isolated.
He has, yeah.
And to be fair, people start to question Dan Burn and going, "Wow, we need a left back in now. We need this, that, and the other." You've got to. It's the protection that you put in front of your full back. When you've got to remember, Dan Burn's not a left back. He's a centre left side, centre half. So we're protecting him. So you're asking Saint-Maximin to do a job where, for me, it's just, you're not going to get it at all. But going forward for Saint-Maximin as well, if he doesn't beat his player straight away, he's not going to beat him in my eyes anymore.
Confidence in it.
And it's just, he honestly frustrates the life out of us.
Definitely. And yourself, Craig,
I could go. I'm like, I don't think he fits into where, like, how Eddie Howe wants to play him, and I think he's been forced to play him rather than wanting to play him. So I think he'd be quite happy just to be a bench player now and try to make things happen. And I think he's exposing him, but I could go on all night about him, and he drives us crazy, like.
And Craig, you mentioned there, like I've said exactly the same as Ian. I think because now he's had to kind of put him back in there, you've seen a few games where he's even brought Murphy on before him, because Murphy, he knows that he'll graft out his arse off to get back in that position to cover, where within an ASM in there, I don't think he trusts him. But as we mentioned, going forward, if Eddie Howe doesn't trust that player, do you think there could be a potential transfer away from the club in the summer?
Possibly, it's I say it's a shame, because he has been kind of, maybe he's been that big fish, you know what I mean, Liverpool, that kind of thing, when we have been struggling as a team, and maybe that's the type of attention he thrives on. He would get the ball, God knows, anywhere, and the whole crowd would want him to take everyone on, because he was the only hope. One time, where Eddie Howe's got a different way of playing, and like Dave has said, it sticks out massively, the fact of like him not closing people down if they're looking to press from the front, like they're all getting out on like their right hand side or down our left, and you can see why, like, he maybe doesn't play him. And for me, Eddie Howe possibly might think he's a bit born idle, you know, in the sense of just all about himself and not about the team. And maybe that's why someone like Murphy, you know, he does bring on ahead of him because he knows he's going to put the football team first before himself, you know, and I totally get that. But, you know, for me, football, like the way he plays it when he's on it, you know, everyone loves to see it, but it's how many times do we see it in a season?
Yeah.
And especially late, how many times are we even seeing it in games, like glimpses? You know, we're not. From the last 2 games, we're right close to a final. He's never really played all season. We've never really seen anything where we've thought, right, he's a game away. He could be back, but I suppose he's unpredictable as well. I mean, I think a lot of will compare him, like, you go back to the start of the season where he was fantastic against Man City. So, but I mean, if he's not doing it in one sense of maybe he's coming back, he's got to give you that bit going forward. And he's just not doing that in these games. You know, you'd think like they would maybe hold back a bit then and think, oh, can't go too far forward because if he gets a ball, we're knackered there. But, you know what? They probably haven't got that fear factor the way he's been playing in the past few games or the performances he's put in. So, you know, he's not doing not a great deal, to be honest, which is a shame. Like, and I think that's why it's such a talking point. I think because he's what a talent he is, but he's just not doing it.
Mm-hmm. The next question that we're going to go through is kind of, as we kind of touched on earlier, the same players playing them week in, week out. Like you say, Eddie Howe hasn't kind of changed that team very much, and they're starting to look a bit tired now. I mean, especially looking at the Bournemouth game, the amount of sloppy passes are counted. And I think we've all played, and we've kind of looked at it where football's always not just play with your feet, it's up here as well mentally, and it's kind of getting that point now where it's getting late in the season. You've played a lot of the games as well, and as you touched on as well, you've got a final coming up. You're going for a tackle. You think, do I really want to go 100% this tackle? Do I want to just key out that? Can I not reach that tackle? I don't want to get injured. A lot of things are going for the players' heads now. Champions League football, can we stay in the top 4? It's not physical, but it's mentally as well. And a lot of these players are draining. Like, I think I've checked the fixtures. We're about 4 or 5 games away now from an international break, which I think we could really do with now to push on, because I think it'll be switched after that an international break when you've got the likes of them teams playing in Europe week in, week out, who's going to be challenging the top 4. And I think that's where we'll start to see that massive factor playing in Newcastle's hands, and especially after Arsenal's game against Man City the other night as well. Just starting with yourself, Craig, I mean, what's your thoughts on kind of the players that he's putting out, and do you think the tiredness is starting to creep in a bit now?
No, definitely. Funny enough, I was reading something from Callum Wilson this morning, obviously, about why he's never played the last game, and he just said he felt something in training. And he says, obviously, the way that they play so intensely, that's the way he expects them to train. So it's like it rolls onto the pitch. And I think it's telling, really. You probably think we've been looking, maybe we've had 12, 13 players, possibly 14 at the very most all season. You know, and it's been mainly the same starting 11 all the time, game after game. You know, give away everything, and which they've done, mate, and they've been brilliant. But eventually it will catch up with you. You know, like, obviously, we know how much of an intense league in the sense of the pace of the game that it is. You know, and that's why I think personally, like, at the minute for the club, maybe it's the Champions League might be a bad move, because we'd have to sign that many world-class footballers, and whether we'd get them straight away or not to buy into what Eddie Howe wants to do, because he might have to go a few, like, you know, superstars which might not fit the bill type of thing, you know, straight away. And I think if it would build slowly and build a bit more of a balanced squad throughout, and it gives work. But I think if we're too much, I think, you know, maybe it's disrupt kind of what he's built on already, you know. But I definitely feel that obviously just with the players that we've got, it just shows the squad depth for where we are in the Champions League spots at the minute. And, you know, the fact that we've dropped off a bit lately, I think it just shows that we are just a little bit tired, basically.
Definitely. And like you say, and with a massive game coming up on obviously next Sunday as well, it is running, like you say, the amount of injuries last game as well, and it kind of is playing in players' minds now. Can I keep yourself fit for the final? It does go through players' heads, doesn't it?
Well, probably the worst thing possible is experience, if you've got a cup final coming up, is to go into games thinking, "Oh, I best not make that tackle. I best not make that run," because guaranteed, if you don't make that tackle or you don't make that run, you'll pull a hamstring, or you'll get caught. You'll get clipped
worse.
if you don't go in full throttle. So I don't think the players in that sense will be shaking tackles or out like that. But it's like you say, if it's intense training as he's playing, he's got them in. I mean, Eddie Howe was at the training ground this morning at 20 past 6. 20 past 6 this morning. I mean, if your manager's there 20 past 6 in the morning, what time's your players going to be there, you know?
Yeah.
So it's full on for them, and it is shown, but the squad depth's got to be really, really looked at. If we're going to be realistic, if we want to be super strong next year, you're going to be looking at, you've got to sign 6 players and 6 top class players to compete at the top. I mean, look what Chelsea's done; it's ridiculous. But even in that Europa League, I mean, you're going to be playing. As soon as you change your ball game, because we've been lucky, we've been playing Saturdays. If you're going to play in that Europa, you start playing Thursday nights, and it's Sundays and Mondays, and it's so hard to do that. So we are looking a little bit tired, like.
Definitely. And finishing off on the Liverpool game coming up on Saturday as well, a couple of comments that came in earlier. Jay was mentioned, actually, I fancy 3-1 Newcastle on Saturday. And Colin Baker was Newcastle will beat Liverpool. We certainly owe them one. Yeah, definitely after the start of the season. Well, I know obviously going back through history, there's some cracking games, but especially after the first game at the start of the season. And I had a question that we're going to kind of go around the full group again about the Liverpool game, but I think we'll change over to Jay's question, which I think is a great question that he sent in earlier. Will Newcastle United play a strong squad, or do you think they'll keep the same lineup for the semi-finals and think about the Premier League match and keep injured free? I think looking at the injuries that we've got, and I think we've all seen the squad depth for the game against Sheffield Wednesday, the players are just simply not good enough to play against Sheffield Wednesday, never mind put a performance in against Liverpool. And I just think if you did that at St James's Park, a few fans will question that. I know personally myself, we've got pretty much a week and a day. And I think under Eddie Howe train, you see what a good coach is. He can get them players ready for the final next week. Even if there's a few little knocks, may have the Sunday off, the Monday off, come back in and start the training. But I think he will be looking at it. I think, as you mentioned before, Gordon, I think he will start the game possibly because he's not in the final. That's going to risk it, not play, getting injured. But I think midfield, obviously with Willock out injured now, it's going to be pretty much pick itself again. The midfield in there. Isaac Wilson, who's going to start up front. I think you've got to go with Isaac. Wilson's not fully fit. Miggy on the right, and pretty much the same back four with Pope and Net. I mean, what's your thoughts going into the squad and the team going into Saturday?
Well, like I picked up earlier, I think and I hope Gordon will start. If you look at your bench, and I don't think you cannot not play what we've already been playing, because I watched Liverpool against Everton, and 3 of the players, Fabinho's back, Van Dijk's back, and Jota's back. So I'd be very surprised if Van Dijk's not back on the side.
Yeah.
I don't think Fabinho will start. I don't think Jota will start. But the strength and the depth, what they've got, what we haven't got. So again, I think he'll play. I don't think he'll play Callum Wilson, and I think he's getting protected me a little bit for the final. To give us our best shots. I think Eddie Howe's really going to go for it, but I don't think I'll probably expect changes quite early on if things.
Yeah, and the 5 subs definitely used, won't they?
Yeah, I think he'll do it that way rather than because questions will be asked if he goes in with the players like Anderson and brings in Manquillo and other players like that. That's not Eddie Howe's way, and he certainly will not disrespect Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool in that way. So I think if things are, I don't think we'll win 3-1. By the way, I don't think we've got at this present time. I don't think we've got a 3-1 result in us. But I think he'll start with Nye on the same side with an odd change, and I think he'll make changes early on just to keep us fresh as we possibly can for the cup final.
Definitely. Any thoughts on the squad and the lineup going into that game, Craig?
Just the same as usual. I think you'll just play, the best team that he's got available. Really, anyone struggling with any pulls or strains or anything like that, he's not gonna risk them. To be fair, rightly so. Wouldn't expect him to, but like you're saying, obviously, when we mentioned the Bournemouth game after, you bring Gordon on, you think, who else is he going to bring on? Yeah, you know what I mean, in the game and stuff. It looked so. Really, who else can he really play? In my opinion, like you say, you can't disrespect Liverpool, otherwise they'll eat well alive, basically, regardless of change it, at home or what. So I think you'll go with the strongest team available that he's got, So I think Wilson, Willock won't play. and he'll just obviously just fill in with like Gordon and stuff like that. And Isaac up front. Score wise, I'm going to go for another draw. Like I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Like good game. Both kind of play the same type of football. To be honest, we like to be on the front foot, you know, and obviously get bodies forward and obviously back again. So it should be a really good game, especially with us being at home. You know, you would expect to kind of try and take the game to them, but you know, in a sense, they'll be hoping for that as well because they want it to play into their hands because they've got plenty of pace going forward as well. So we've just got to hope that we've got a good atmosphere really to get the place rocking, to get them unsettle them a little bit.
Definitely. I mean, Klopp switched that Nunez out to their left hand side against Everton, and his pace going forward was frightening. And I mean, obviously, Trips is not blessed with the best of pace, so he's going to be in for a right tough game. The way that Nunez played against Everton on Monday night, and Gakpo he was quite decent and all. So we're going to the back four is going to have a tough game on Saturday.
It's going to be a tough one. Leon's mentioned they're going to be a boring 0-0 draw, but I think I would take a 0-0 draw all day now if I had the chance. Like definitely. And then finally, lads, just your thoughts. Obviously,
there'll be goals, definitely.
Definitely. Yeah. So it was 2-2 from yourself, Craig. What was your score prediction name for that one?
That'll be 1-1.
1-1. Yeah. And finally, I've got to ask you your score prediction for Wembley. Obviously, Newcastle versus Man United. Craig, what's your score prediction for the final?
I'm gonna go 2-1 Newcastle. 2-1 extra time.
Yourself, Ian?
I don't think I can cope with extra time. Absolutely on fire. He's been electric again tonight in Barcelona. I think there'll be goals. I think there'll be goals in it. I think obviously it's a cup final. I'm not going to say Newcastle's going to get beat. I can't say that at all. It's going to be such a tight. I'll go for a 2-1 win Newcastle United. 2-1
win, and I've gone for a 1-0 win. Quite a late goal, Kevin Trippier free kick. I've gone for. I just think hopefully next week with that
94
second leg.
minutes.
Oh, imagine this. We've been playing again against Barcelona next week. I just hope it goes to extra time. I hope it goes to penalties. I hope it delayed the games by, and I hope they just get absolutely knackered and worn out. And I just think we'll get a 1-0 in Eddie Howe, and I think we'll just win it 1-0. I'd be absolutely amazed if it did. But what a feeling it's going to be. Going to be absolutely amazing. But again, everyone that's been watching all night, all the comments that's coming, some great comments coming in throughout the night as well. Really appreciate your support as well. Next up Sunday, 7:15, the North East Non-League Show, episode 20. We've got Newcastle Benfield, Craig Bell, the chairman, coming on just to talk about the club and his plans and aims going forward as well, and about the history of the club as well. So really looking forward to that one. But Ian and Craig, thank you very much for joining us tonight, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your night as well.